What the hell? You know, I feel like this should be the kind of review where I begin with a look on my face, not knowing what to say or make out what I just saw. But now that I waited a day or two to write this review, I know exactly what I want to say because I have a ton to talk about with Phil Tippett's Mad God. I saw the trailer online by chance and then see it spotlighted a few times on the Rotten Tomatoes website. But watching the trailer for this movie and with it only coming out in a week or two by that point, I was hooked. I love movies that aren't the most easiest to explain but are given enough for you to go off of and make your own conclusion. Most of the time. You know, most of the time. I like movies that try experimental ideas, but sometimes that gets in the way for many people, me included. It's always going to be up for opinion on what works or not, and one easy example that comes to mind is Eraserhead, because I hate that movie. I hate Eraserhead. Yes, it's influential for reasons, but I just didn't care. It had obscure nightmarish imagery that honestly, given the minimum location how long the movie felt from beginning to end for an unclear story that sure visually looked fantastic, but without any context to go off of or enough for me, personally anyway, when a shot, honestly goes on for way too long. I got sick of the cool imagery I'm looking at because it makes me feel like I'm supposed to eventually see it differently or something else, but without characters I care about or a clear goal of what's going to happen, what's the point watching? I already came to my own conclusion. So, what's there for more for me to see? Sure, there's an argument about being obscure and other people don't see it that way, but when I reach my own conclusion before the end of the scene, let alone the movie, and it doesn't make me see it differently as it goes on, I lose interest. And maybe it has been a while since I watched Eraserhead, so maybe it's different than I remember. Whatever. The reason I talk about this is that it feels like someone watched Eraserhead and on LSD and then said, what if we made our own Eraserhead times 11? And did so not only on LSD, but also on cocaine. I don't know drugs, okay? I don't know drugs. Boom, Mad God! So, Mad God comes from the director of Starship Troopers 2, Hero of the Federation. Yeah, jokes aside, you saw the trailer, you know Phil Tippett is an Oscar-winning effects artist for his work on Jurassic Park, as well as to work on other movies such as Return of the Jedi, RoboCop, and another example, Starship Troopers, etc. For what I could gather, Phil has worked on this movie for 30 years, at times shelving it, then working on it in a series of shorts through Kickstarter, making this movie on just a budget, at least it's just from what I could read on Kickstarter, less than $125,000, and let me make it clear, any movie with a budget that small, yes, that small, should be impressive. And this movie feels like it took both a long time to make and a lot of time and money. I saw time twice. I say time twice because it took him decades. It's a stop motion movie made for adults and only for adults, and that's surreal. No, okay, the movie itself is surreal. It's horror-filled. It's nightmarish and has the indescribable imagery that's also nerve-wracking and spine-chilling. I never saw any stop-motion movie, or really any movie that looks like this just from the trailer, so I, of course, had to watch it. The problem is, it's exclusive to Shudder, which, if you don't know, is the major streaming channel for horror. Last year, I watched The Friday Night, which is a Shudder original movie, but I could rent it elsewhere. But the movie, I couldn't, so I actually did the week-long free trial just to watch this movie. Is it worth it then? Well, with that said, what's the movie about? I don't know. I mean, bravo for making it really hard for me to actually explain what the premise of the movie is, let alone the plot. But here's my, okay, well, not the best, but I'll try. Okay, given no one talks in the movie, I had to go online to know what the main character is even called, and he's referred to as the Assassin. A tall figure with no visual signs of who he is or maybe what he could be, as he wears a jacket, a gas mask, and carries with him a briefcase. He's descended from somewhere to go deeper and deeper into this nightmarish world. And let me make it clear, this world is nothing like you see. And if you are in any way easily sickened, don't watch this movie. I'm pretty sure the scene with the giants all being electrocuted so they shat out their own feces to an even bigger giant under them made me actually go to my toilet to barf. And I didn't love it, but I was fascinated. Put that on the poster. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah. So yeah, this is a world I actually can't even describe. These are creatures. I don't know what to compare them to or even that well at all. They are creatures. They are creatures that have some traits of humans on them, but most of them are just monsters who kill anything in sight. And you don't know. They just do. There's a major part of the movie where these humanoid-looking things, again, I don't know how to describe it, are created and forced to do labor, but most of them try to get themselves killed, or it's unclear if by any chance it's accident or on purpose. This world is truly its own. One of the most unique worlds I've ever seen in anything. It truly does feel like a mad god would make this living hell. And for the first 35 minutes of the movie, I loved it. Its visuals deserve so much praise. And given how we see things from this assassin's character's point of view and perspective, as we don't know who he is or what he's doing so far, his descent and unclear make me want to know more about this world. And then something else happens that honestly almost ruined the movie for me. 35 minutes into the movie, a major twist, for lack of a better way to describe it, happens, and we don't exactly follow the assassin character anymore. Then we focus on many other creatures, which don't have a clear enough idea of who they are or what they're doing, which sure, it's meant to be obscure, but I honestly, this is gonna sound weird, it got boring. Yeah, I felt disappointed by the end of the movie, because an hour in, I gotta be honest, I fell asleep. The movie didn't necessarily scare me in the game, but it was nerve-wracking. I didn't want anything bad to happen, but how anything bad happens is fascinating to watch. But then we follow different characters in this world, and I don't know, they are what they're trying to accomplish, so it's hard for me to care as the movie goes on, since the more the movie goes on, the less it makes sense. Which honestly isn't what I think the movie should have done. Did I need it to be explained to me? Of course not. That's not what kind of movie this is. But there's something how I think like Eraserhead, where if you go too obscure, I honestly don't know if I would be that interested. Let me make this clear. That's more of my problem. Maybe other people won't, but it's hard for me it's hard for a movie for me that goes so obscure that I lose any idea what I'm supposed to think of it, since there's no clear point the story is following. Or in words, I don't know how I'm supposed to figure out what the point is if I already figured out what I think the point is. But as the movie just drags on, it doesn't really make me change how I see it. It gets boring. Look, to be honest, the imagery got less interesting. Like, it's a gritty, gross world of nightmares at first again. Saying that something should give you an idea of how to take that and multiply it by 500. But by an hour in, I didn't care since the world stopped being interesting. Again, it's my problem. It's hard to elaborate on, so I'll try to elaborate. But saying what I think about the movie is what I'm talking about. Here's what I think the movie's about. Okay, I think it's about living in hell on Earth. And if that's not it, it's how I saw it. We have this character we don't know about on a mission. Not really clear, or really him not really caring about others in their world or getting hurt or killed. He has a mission to go deeper and deeper into this world, and the deeper he goes, the worse it gets. Like, imagine Dante's Inferno in reverse, and you were on crack. And then it seems like it gives me an idea he was sent to destroy this world, but he ends up becoming one of the many tortured creatures in this world. And then we see another character look just like him. Maybe this world is not hell for all, but his own personal hell. Maybe this entire world exists for its own torture. It's hell for all, and each death symbolizes something. Every frame of this movie could be put in an art gallery, and it tells a story on its own, but together it needed some context, because the movie just stops following the assassin character. I don't know what happens to him, even if it's not the same assassin character. I don't see him again almost an hour into this movie. He just disappears, and given that this character is how the audience is looking through the eyes to observe, it takes away a clear narrative to follow. Well, okay, not clear, like, yes, it's very unclear what this narrative is, but it takes away a narrative to follow, since the aftermath of a different scene is then followed, which goes from character to character that also look cool, but I don't know what I'm supposed to go off from that point. If it followed the assassin characters beginning to end, it might have been one of the best movies I've ever seen, but because it gets too hard to follow, it doesn't stay enjoyable for me to watch. It got tiring, and honestly, I paused this movie an hour in, and yes, as I said, I fell asleep on my couch for like a half hour because I was exhausted. I don't know if that's necessarily as a bad thing. I just got a bit tired because, yes, it was a lot. But look, watching this movie, and it was only at 3 o'clock when this happened, in the afternoon. After that, continuing the movie, I just wanted it to be over, honestly. I didn't have any ideas left about what to go off of, so what should I care about? I thought 3 different times the movie was over before it actually was. In the end, I didn't know what to think. Now I do, because, as I said at the beginning of this review, I had time to think about it. I was underwhelmed or in some ways disappointed. Now, with that said, I didn't hate this movie. Far from it. I still loved the first 35 minutes of the movie. It's better than some other movies I love from beginning to end I've seen this year. And the rest is still okay. Sure, by the end I was tired and sick of the movie, but I won't let that be the sale for the final product given. Okay, look, if I had to still compare this movie for what it does right and what it does wrong, think of it doing what's wrong with like going... Think of it doing what's wrong with like going to a museum, like looking at a series of paintings, but you have to look at one painting for a certain period of time, and it's not up to you when you can stop. Okay, maybe I shouldn't explain it like that, since the pacing of the movie, again, is only a problem with the latter half, since the first half, like I said, is great. The pacing wasn't a problem, but in the second half, I didn't care how long it held on a shot. I either just didn't get it or already made a conclusion before the scene was over, and I just wanted to get to the next part of the story, but there was no story to go off of. How about like saying it's like going to a museum, but it's a history museum? You see pictures of history where the time goes on, and you see the people in the world change in the photos, but you don't know how, beforehand or given context who these people are, their environment. Sure, you can have an idea or somewhat, but if you want more information, you're not given it. And while sure this movie is meant to be obscure, I honestly just needed a tiny bit more to go off of if I wanted to learn anything about this world. No, look, okay, if this movie needs to be compared to something obscure done right, think of Don Hertzfeldt's It's Such a Beautiful Day. And if you haven't seen this movie, it's going to be hard to kind of compare it to, but okay, bear with me. Where, sure, you have a narrator to explain things, but this world created isn't what you isn't simply told it to be. You're given an idea of who Bill is, the main character, but that doesn't mean everything is explained to you, because you might see the movie differently than what you're told it might be, or you might agree, but still think there's more to it than shown. The movie works because it's well-paced, beautiful to look at, and by the end, you're given a story told to you, but your point of view or opinion of it is your own. I didn't need Matt God to explain what it was about for me or how this world works, but I needed a story to follow, so I don't know. This movie felt... but I needed a story to go follow, so I know this movie felt like something was going to be accomplished. That's my problem. I don't know what it's trying to accomplish. It could be just seeing as a glimpse of how this world works, but as a single narrative, it doesn't work, or at least as well as it should. I did read somewhere this was a series of shorts released in parts over the year, kind of like It's Such a Beautiful Day. I could be wrong, but if I wanted to see parts of the movie on its own, I watched the movie in parts, and with only a running time of an hour and 20 minutes, it still felt too long and dragged on. I loved this movie so much, and again, the visuals are nothing like I've ever seen. This movie deserves recognition for that alone, and that is why most people, as far as I know, do praise the movies, since the storytelling isn't forever. So I'm sure other people will love it, but for me, I just needed a little bit more, at least in the second half of the film to go off of. I'm sure if I read something somewhere about something I missed and rewatching a movie another time makes me want to see it differently, maybe I would be more positive. But the first time watching it is what I'm basing this movie off of. Or, no, look at this review off of, not the movie itself, because, you know, again, second viewing could be different. I could rewatch the first 35 minutes again, though. Okay, I could watch it again and again, and that alone was worth it for me. I do 100% recommend the movie. It might not be your thing, and I wasn't in love with it from beginning to end, but I was impressed by it from beginning to end, and it is mad at me to say this movie and Phil Tippett's work doesn't deserve praise from the mad genius both are. I don't know. And plus, let's be honest, after seeing the movie Jurassic World Dominion, I was willing to say, yeah, no, this definitely deserves way more praise. I give Mad God an 8 out of 10.